Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest Mailbag podcast. I'm Eric Cain alongside Grant Ramey and Brent Hubbs. A lot going on right now, Volquest.com, and as always, a lot of conversation happening on the General's Quarters. We got basketball, football spring practice coming up in just a couple of weeks. Coaching staff hires. Coaching staff's going to meet with the media tomorrow, the new defensive staff for football. Baseball season's happening right now. Recruiting never stops. There's no better time to join us than right now. A lot going on over at Volquest.com. As we do each and every Thursday morning, we'll start with some mailbag questions. Here's one on Joey Aguilar. Where do you see the Vols ranked if Joey wins preliminary injunction? Got to equal 2+ wins on the outside looking in, right?
I don't know when you look at that schedule. I mean, should it be 2 wins, Grant? I mean, we just don't know what George can be. One would expect Joey would be much better in year 2 than year 1. And he was good in year 1. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that Tennessee goes from a 6-win team to an 8-win team with Joey, or an 8-win team to a 10-win team with Joey, but they would certainly be, I think, more comfortable offensively. I mean, I know they'd be more comfortable offensively if Joey Aguilar was their quarterback.
I mean, specific to the ranking part of the question, I think they're mainly. Seems like the majority is unranked in all these way too early top 25s. I think there are a couple that have Tennessee in there, but maybe you go from unranked to in the 20th range or something like that. I mean, I don't think it would
think
make
you're definitely preseason ranked if Joey's your quarterback.
But it's not super high. It's between 15 and 25 probably at best.
And I think regardless of who the quarterback is, I think this is a hard schedule. But
That's true.
Everybody in this league has a hard schedule. But I mean, I don't want to act like not getting him back is no big deal. I mean, it certainly changes your outlook on things if he is your quarterback because of all the parts that you're bringing back around him. That doesn't mean George can't play either. It's just it eliminates the unknown at that position, which if he's not your quarterback, the biggest unknown about Tennessee going into the fall season is going to be what kind of quarterback play do you get?
What do you make of all the comments from Virginia Tech fans saying Derek Jones with his cheetah-style technique similar to Willie Martinez, not playing the ball in the air? Virginia Tech players were getting beat deep and fans hated him. Poindexter seems to teach his guys to play the ball. Do you think Jones will change his teaching style here, or will Poindexter be hands-on the DBs teaching his style?
Well, I mean, Poindexter's, overseeing the secondary, but it's Jim Knowles' style. They're going to play Jim Knowles' defense, whatever Jim Knowles wants to do. I mean, Willie Martinez is going to put a couple more people in the NFL draft in the first round in his, quote, cheetah style or whatever we're calling that deal. I mean, it's all about, being in phase, and if are you in a trail position, are you in zone, are you in man? I don't know. I don't know enough of the ins and outs of secondary play. Virginia Tech wasn't very good last year, Grant, and I don't think it was necessarily just one position. I just don't think they were very good overall a year ago at any spot. But I mean, obviously Jim Knowles knows exactly what he's getting in Derek Jones, and This is who he wanted to go get.
That was my thought too. It's Jim Knowles' defense. He knows what he's doing here with this hire, and you have Anthony Poindexter as well as a secondary coach. So it's not like Derek Jones is going to step in and just run his show and do whatever he wants. There's going to be a lot of oversight in terms of what they're trying to accomplish and how they want to accomplish it. So I'm sure that was discussed and addressed on the front end as opposed to reacting to it now.
Thoughts on his recruiting abilities? He has ties to areas we love, such as Middle Tennessee, Memphis, Carolinas, DMV area. I wondered if that went into the decision to hire him as well.
Well, I don't think there's any question that goes into it. I mean, I think, I don't know how much Jim Knowles is going to recruit. I think he's going to recruit on campus a great deal and will be heavily involved there, but I don't know how much he's going to be on the road recruiting. I think that there was no question there was a recruiting element to this job, not just coaching. But again, I mean, here's a guy who knows the defense, knows the foundation, has worked with Jim Knowles going all the way back to Duke, knows what he wants, knows what he thinks looks good. To me, this was a no-brainer hire. I mean, when Michael Hunter left and you started looking for names, you started putting things together, this was a name that quickly popped up. I mean, he wasn't retained by James Franklin at Virginia Tech. Jim Knowles had worked with him for 6 or 7 years. I mean, it was, to me, this was the obvious direction that Jim Knowles and Anthony Poindexter were going to try to get Josh Heupel to go, and that's where Josh Heupel went. So, I mean, I think he can recruit. I think recruiting was part of it. I think recruiting should always be a part of any assistant coach hire that you make, particularly at the non-coordinator level.
I kind of like the Big Ten's 24-team playoff proposal. Take 16 off the table. Would you rather have 12 or 24? And for clarification, the 24-team format proposed by the Big Ten would take the 23 best teams and would allow one additional guaranteed spot for a group of 6 in a 23+1 model. The top 8 teams would receive byes. There would be 8 first-round home games on college campuses, followed by 8 additional second-round games on college campuses. For the first time, top seeds in the college football playoff bracket would get a chance to host a home game. The Big Ten's optimal window for a 24-team playoff would be a start date in the second weekend of December. Quarterfinals on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at bowl sites. Semifinals the following week at bowl sites, and the national championship game at a neutral site in mid-January. 12 or 24?
24. I mean, I don't think it. People are going to say that takes away from the regular season. I don't think Saturdays are going to feel any less huge based on whatever the playoff number is. I don't feel like 12 has changed Saturdays in the fall. Going from what we had 4 to 12, I don't think going from 12 to 24 would change the feeling. And if it gets away from bowl games that people are not really paying much attention to these days or that excited about these days, I mean, I'd rather be covering a playoff game if Tennessee's the 20th seed than a Music City Bowl. I mean, and it feels like the calendar logistically is very similar to what it is now. So let's mix in more football instead of more off days.
I got a couple things here, if anybody cares.
No, we don't.
Move on.
Not a shocker there.
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
To your point, and taking away from the regular season, I learned that lesson when they expanded to 12. Like, I thought that it would. It has not. It's made it better, and I've enjoyed it. Excuse me. So from that perspective, I'm with you. I don't think if you expanded to 24, it would take away from the regular season. It would just be that much more enticing. Having said that, no business should 8 teams be getting a bye. That's ridiculous. That's pathetic. No, 8 teams getting a bye, that's awful. To your calendar point, Grant, I'm with you. Like, it wouldn't change the calendar where it is right now, but the problem is the calendar right now sucks. Like,
right.
There's and
it's getting worse. And it's getting worse.
Yeah, when's the game
like
next year?
January 25th or something.
It's ridiculous, man. So they need to fix the calendar. I just think the fact that eight would get byes, I don't like that at all. I like the fact that you would have the opportunity to host a playoff game if you're one of those top 8 seeds. That's cool. I just think there's too much mess in there for me to want it 24 compared to 12.
Oh, I'm for anything other than 12. I mean, 16 would be optimal, but I'm more on the 24 wagon than the 12 wagon. And I think fans of the SEC, and I don't understand why the SEC is so anti-24, because to me it just gets more teams involved than the 12-team playoff does, particularly when you have it set up the way you have it set up right now with 9 conference games and that 10th game being a Power 4 opponent. Why are you playing that Power 4 non-conference opponent? You need to get rid of that one if you're the SEC to try to get enough people. If you're trying to get more teams involved in the playoffs, I think getting more getting more games on campuses should be a thing. I think we need to try to figure out how to do that regardless of what our number looks like. I mean, I'm with you on the buys. I understand what you're saying, but the idea that the elite, the better teams in the playoffs get a home game, I think is cool. I mean, I think that's the best avenue for the playoff. The more home games you get, than true non-neutral site games, the better off you are. As for the calendar, let's quit talking about the calendar. Can we just quit talking about it? Because everybody harped on it and complained about it, and then they get together at the coaches' convention, and what did they do? They didn't discuss the calendar. They didn't discuss it. It wasn't a thing. And all we talked about is how bad the calendar is, and I think the calendar is awful. But there's no priority on the calendar. So let's quit talking about the calendar. I mean, that's my soapbox for college football is you talk about it until it's time to do something about it, and then there's no action.
Yeah.
Right? We're getting ready to roll into this season where we complain and everybody's mad about all the things that are wrong about college football, and then we're going to put the ball down and we're going to play it, and everybody's going to go, it's the greatest thing ever. And then we're going to get to December, and everybody's going to complain for about 4 weeks in December, maybe 6 weeks, and then we're going to get to the end of January, and we're going to talk about how much we miss college football, and we're going to do nothing to fix the problems, nothing to address it. Not one thing, Grant, is going to be done to address the issues that everybody talks about are so problematic for college football. We're going to play a championship game essentially in February. We're going to compete against the NFL in every turn. We're going to continue to keep free agency and the draft and everything else in a 4-week window around the Christmas holiday, essentially. Stop complaining about it, or come up with a plan to fix it. Who's got a plan? I will say this for the Big Ten. At least the Big Ten's throwing stuff at the wall.
Yep.
Right.
They're throwing stuff at the wall. I'm looking at you, Greg Sankey. I've not seen the first proposal thrown your way that you're throwing.
And what they're throwing at the wall is more football. And if you get a choice between more football and less football, give me more football. 2014 playoff, if you lose on the road to a bad Arkansas team, the world's not over. You're still alive. But like college basketball, that loss could be the difference in the better seed for the postseason. Rick says all the time, you think these games in November and December don't matter, wait till Selection Sunday and you don't have the seed that you want because you didn't beat Kansas in Las Vegas when you had the chance to beat Kansas, or you didn't beat Kentucky when you had the chance to beat Kentucky, or whatever. If you lose at Arkansas, it could be the difference between a home playoff game, a road playoff game. It could be the difference between getting a bye and not getting a bye. There's still going to be, the general quarters is still going to be freaking out over whatever happened against whichever opponent on whichever Saturday in the season. Whether it's 12, 24, 4, 6, 16, whatever the number is. So if the choice is more or less football, give me more football.
Of the two, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of how this proposal goes about getting to 24. I think 16 would make more than 12. I'm fine with expanding more than 12. I just think the way you go about getting these 24s, I don't know. It's just weird. But Brent's right.
It works at other levels of college football.
It would also, when you have 24, there's going to be better chances for upsets in that first and second round or whatever, because they're we went to the 12-team playoff, and I think everybody expected it to feel like the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, and then it was all chalk across the board the first year of the 12-team tournament. I think if you did go bigger and the bracket was bigger, you would get more of that kind of college basketball feel where it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah, opening round games in the college football playoff in the 12-team format have not been very competitive. You can look at those results and go, why'd they go to 12?
Right.
Should have stayed at 4, should have stayed at 8. Because you're in that window where, and again, part of it's because of the goofy arrangements that you have with automatic qualifiers and all those things. You're not getting the true 12 best teams.
Yeah. So
I'm for a format that gives you the opportunity for an upset in the first round, some more home football games for opponents, and a chance, for more competitive football games. Not games that you're turning off, or not games that you say going in. No offense to James Madison, but it's why are we watching this game?
Right.
That game's not going to be competitive. Nobody's interested in watching that deal. So I think whether it's 12, 16, 24, you've got a format. You've got to figure out how to make the games more competitive in the format on that first weekend and that opening weekend, when you have the captive audience, by the way, because the NFL is not playing playoff games, and stop making that a throwaway weekend, because that feels like a throwaway weekend with those games.
Now, what I think everybody wants to see is a group of 5 playoff. Freaking sign me up for that. There's a lot of good football there. They just don't stand a chance against Oregon. You just don't. Right. James Madison's not going to beat anybody. Tulane's not going to beat anybody in this format. Cincinnati got blitzed a couple of years ago. But you put a group of 5 playoff, everybody's going to watch it. It's going to be great football. It's going to be fun. All right, moving on. Will this be one of Rick Barnes' best coaching jobs of his tenure at Tennessee if the men's basketball team makes it to the Sweet 16?
This team beat Houston, and Houston's pretty good. That was 40 of their best minutes of basketball back in November when they beat Houston in Vegas. It does feel like a long time ago. I've been incredibly impressed with how they've been patient with Nate Ament and just said all along, it's fine, he's going to be fine, it's coming, it's going to happen, and it happened. I think he's they've done a really good job with JP Estrella because they've been really hard on him, and I think they developed him over the course of the season to where he's been playing a lot better these last few weeks, I think. But I mean, the 23 team went to the Sweet 16 with no Zakai Ziegler. You lost him on February 28th, so last home game of the season, he tears his ACL. That team had no business going to the second weekend, and they go through Duke to get there, so that was impressive. The 17-18 team, you go from 31 wins combined over your first two seasons to 25, 26, whatever it was, for that 17-18 team to get a 3 seed in the tournament. It would probably be up there just because it's just been inconsistent and hard to figure out what you're going to get it night in and night out. They've got, like we've been saying all season, a really high ceiling, a really low floor, and you're just trying to figure out which one you're going to be closer to from this game to the next. So it would be up there. I don't know if it would be his most impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, quickly, it's, and this is a credit to Rick Barnes, that the expectation is to be in the Sweet 16 now.
Right.
That's what he's generated. So, I mean, I think in October, everybody thought this was going to be a Sweet 16 team. Now, the path to get there is obviously unique every year, and I think he has done a fine job with this team, but I don't know that you look back and go, man, he pulled a rabbit out of his hat with this team. I don't think most people are going to think that way about this team if they're playing the second weekend.
If they play really well over the final 6 games of the regular season and they flirt with 23, 24 wins in the regular season, again, that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Now that
would be, and you add in the postseason, if they could get to 25 plus, that would be 5 straight years of 25 plus wins, which is pretty remarkable.
Hey everybody, I want to tell you about the great people over at Home Field Apparel, the exclusive apparel sponsor of Volquest.com. Football season, it's gone, but we're in basketball season, baseball season, softball season. Those spring sports are on the calendar right now. And if you're heading out to Sherry Parker Lee Stadium, the newly renovated Lindsey Nelson Stadium, or the Food City Center, be decked out in style with some vintage Tennessee designs. If you're watching on YouTube right now, we're at the home field site and we're looking through the Tennessee stuff. I mean, just look at this stuff. I mean, this is stuff, again, I'm going to call out that baseball hat every single time. My buddy was at the game this past weekend wearing that hat. It's got a green lid on the underneath that looks fantastic. Look at that smoky shirt. The material is so soft. Vintage college designs. You've got Lady Vols apparel right there. Pride of the Southland Marching Band, Lady Vols, men's basketball, football, but all of it has that vintage flair and really kind of just takes you back, giving you those nostalgic feels. You can get all that and more over at Home Field Apparel. Go see for yourself. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you're seeing the selection right out in front of you. Another nice baseball hat. Man, that's fantastic. But if you're listening to us, go to homefieldapparel.com, homefieldapparel.com to see for yourself. Be decked out the next time you go watch your Volunteers play. You can do that at Home Field Apparel. Who do you think leads the defense in tackles, sacks, snaps played, and interceptions next year? I saw this and my mind immediately went to snaps played, and I think it'll be Ty Redmond if he stays healthy, or one of those corners, Cain Lee, Ty Redmond. I think they would be snaps played. For tackles, give me a linebacker, give me one of Campbell or Carter, and I would probably go Campbell just because he's proved to be more durable throughout his career. He's played a ton of football, where Carter's played a ton of football, but he's missed some time. Sacks, I have no clue. I Chaz Coleman, Jordan Norman, I don't know. I have no clue about sacks. You guys got a feel for sacks?
No, I had a hard time with the sacks part of this question because it's like, I mean, I think Hobbs can sack the quarterback, but how many defensive tackles lead a team in sacks?
Yep.
You think Coleman, but there's a ton of potential there. We haven't seen just a guarantee in production. And how does Norman adjust to this system, and how do they use him? Norman would make some sense there. But I think that's the much bigger question mark. I'm actually going to say TJ Metcalf for snaps played because I think he's going to be their safety, and I think he'll just be their anchor back there in terms of snaps played. Redmond would be the other option because Redmond may never come off the field. But I think it'd be one of those two. And I would probably take Redmond maybe for interceptions, but I'm fascinated to see the Moa kid that transferred from Kansas State and kind of what that looks like with him at the nickel position and how they choose to use that position. I've watched some Penn State defense, but that was 1 year. How much did he But I don't know exactly what this thing's going to look like with Jim Knowles. I'm curious to see how they use this group of secondary players, how they tweak their secondary play and their schematic stuff back there.
I like the Ty Redmond talk. Sacks, I guess Chaz, just because it's the shiny new toy, and that would be the fun option. So give me the fun option.
Grant Ramey chooses fun.
That's right, always.
Tackles, Grant. I mean, Campbell probably makes the most sense, right?
Yeah, that's where I was leaning. No offense, Aaron Carter. Just the familiarity with the system and, all that stuff.
How they rotate at that position is going to be really fascinating to watch come the fall. Really, really fascinating.
I mean, I tallied up all the games played and snaps played and all that for the returners in this group. I mean, it's asinine. And you got guys like Jaden Perlotti that deserves to play more. Edwin Spillman deserves to keep playing. Jeremiah Thielander, who is to stand to get snaps taken away from him in this scenario, has played 2 full years of football for you. Jaden Harmon is still here. You have those 2 young guys coming in, and Braden Rouse and TJ White, and man, I mean, it's good to have options. Tough to figure out who's going to play what snaps. Good thing you don't have a transfer portal window in the spring.
I mean, everybody's going to talk about Thielander, and rightfully so, because where does he factor in, and what is that? I am maybe as fascinated as anything to see how this staff uses Jaden Perlotti.
No.
What do they think of him? Where's the best fit for him? What is Jaden Perlotti in a Jim Knowles defense?
This is a fun one, Grant. So since you're all about fun today, rank your top 3 annual sporting events. The poster says March Madness, the Masters, and World Series are the correct answers. The World Series and March Madness are certainly 2 of the 3, I think, for 9 out of 10 people.
March Madness for sure. I come from I see that one with a different point of view because we follow the teams around for 3 weeks, from SEC tournament to NCAA tournament, and it is just nonstop basketball. It is so much fun. The year revolves around those 3 weeks for me. The Masters, I'm glad AP's not here because I'm just not as huge of a golf watcher or enjoyer as some people are. I have the Masters on when it's that time of year just because it's that time of year, and that's kind of what you do. It's like your body clock. It's the Final Four, and then it's the Masters. New Year's Day might be on there because of, especially if the Rose Bowl is a playoff game, because that's a huge day. It's nonstop football. Super Bowl Sunday is probably up there. World Series depends. Just depends on who's in it. If it's the Dodgers and whoever else, I could care less about it. But if it's a great matchup, then I'm there.
Like the World Series is specific, and I know that you probably have to go specific in this route. Well, I mean, March Madness is a season essentially. Like I think playoff baseball is so much fun.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing, not just the world, like playoff baseball in November, October, November is a blast for me.
The month of October is usually more fun than whatever it ends up being in the World Series, depending, like I said, on the matchup.
Yeah.
I think playoff hockey, which I don't understand anything about hockey, is as just intense and craziness. No offense to the baseball fans out there, and I know both you guys are baseball fans. I haven't watched a World Series game in years, and I haven't watched playoff games. I mean, if a playoff game is on, I'm probably watching some MAC college football game that's on somewhere in October or November. And again, for people who love baseball, I totally get it. So that's not a knock on baseball. It's just not my preference. I do enjoy the Masters just because that golf course. Some of these other majors, you don't know anything about them, but you know the ins and outs of that golf course. So I like the majors. I actually think Conference Championship Sunday in the NFL in a lot of ways is even better than the Super Bowl because you get 2 really good games played that day with a Final Four. So I actually like Conference Championship Sunday in the National Football League as much as I like the Super Bowl. I think that's a Sunday, and I don't think college football should ever be around that game. They should not be doing anything around that weekend because I think that weekend is as good a football as there is. And I think the NFL should have the center stage because I think those are typically 2 great games.
probably going to get destroyed about my Masters take, so let me walk it back. I love the Masters music. I love having that Masters app on my phone. I love what that tournament means in terms of the weather's turning, and it's time to you get to think about spring and the summer. I think the Open Championship for me is underrated. I always liked that one as a kid for whatever reason. I guess because it was on first thing in the morning when you woke up, you could turn it on. It's the links golf is just something very different to look at. I don't know. I am a golf fan. I'm just not as super fan as a lot of people I know.
Grant, how many days, and Eric jump in here too, how many days of school did you miss to watch conference championship in basketball? And did you have a teacher did you get to watch college basketball in the classroom?
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys have a teacher who flipped what used to be Channel 1 as the only reason the TV was in your room, and suddenly you found a way to watch college basketball?
I had a teacher in middle school that would roll in the big TV cart on the afternoon of the Thursday or Friday of the NCAA tournament. My daughter's getting ready to go to her first middle school dance here in a couple of weeks, and she's been prepping for that. The other day I was like, you know what? I left one of my middle school dances early so I could go home and watch Tennessee play North Carolina in the Sweet 16 at the Irwin Center in Austin. I believe that was 2000 range.
Yeah, Tennessee blew that game, man.
Gave up a lead, so time's a flat circle. Nothing's changing. Still giving up leads, and I'm still avoiding social. I'm still avoiding
social events.
I'm on the stag line with Mr. Schwamp. So I wasn't like leaving anything where anybody would notice, but yeah, that was my childhood. I was more interested in basketball than anything else.
Yeah, they wheeled in the TV to watch basketball in middle school for me too. In high school, a little bit different, but in college we covered. I mean, obviously remotely, but we covered a March Madness game in one of our sports journalism classes, and I thought that was really neat. Live tweeting, gamer stuff like that, watching interviews post game to try to get enough to put out a feature. I thought that was really, really cool. So
my first experience like in person with it was the first four in Conzo's year, where they went from the first four to the Sweet 16, going from Dayton to Raleigh to Indy, and I was hooked after that. That was so much fun.
All right, what could the next wave of conference realignment look like with big-time schools taking massive losses in their athletic departments? Could cross-country travel for within-conference games be looked at, reevaluated? Seems to be a topic that has kind of taken a back burner lately.
Well, I think that in your non-revenue sports, I think that is something that, from a financial standpoint, again, are we going to fix anything, or are we just going to talk about things? But, swimming and diving, some other sports, they don't travel around to a bunch of conference venues to play games. They get together and do their conference championships. And for some, it's the first time they've ever seen each other, in a pool, because they haven't competed against each other because they've been in various meets or doing whatever the case may be. I think the Big Ten and those schools on the West Coast have to explore staying on the West Coast and playing in those non-revenue sports and not get caught up in traveling as much as they're traveling right now. I think baseball and softball is pretty fascinating that way with those leagues. Do you look at doing if you're UCLA, USC, Oregon, do you just play all year long basically on the West Coast and then you go to the Big Ten tournament at the end, the Big Ten championships? Is that something that has to be looked at as a cost-saving measure, not just for the West Coast teams, but for the Rutgerses of the world and Penn State and those people that are traveling across the country to play a 3-game series or a volleyball set or whatever? I mean, I think from a cost-saving measure, you have to look at that. The question is, who's going to do that? Like, who's going to sit down and say, okay, let's really look at doing this? And again, that's my soapbox, is I don't think anybody's thinking that side of it. They just, nobody views and looks at it that way, to where they could better themselves and make life easier for everybody.
Yeah, of all the changes in college athletics the last decade, I think the conference realignment specific to Cal and Stanford being ACC teams and USC and UCLA being Big Ten teams, that's the worst thing that's come of all this, and it's got to change at some point. I think if the power conferences ever break away and form their own thing, you have to go back to geography-based conferences, because it's just It's just it just doesn't make sense for Big Ten teams to, they go, and ACC teams too. You have to turn those West Coast trips into multiple game trips where you're playing 2 games in 3 days and then you're flying back. It's just you're too used to regional travel for road games, and to turn it into cross country travel for road conference games in the middle of the week, the weekend, whatever. That's got to be fixed at some point, because it's never felt right. I don't think anybody's enjoying it. I don't think it's not. It just needs to somehow go back to geography based at some point whenever they get that far down the road.
And I'll give Greg Sankey credit, Eric, for all the stuff that I don't think that they necessarily do. I think the SEC has been the smartest of all the leagues in being very careful in realignment, not jumping too far out there. And the people that they have brought in, with the exception of maybe Missouri, the people they brought into this league make a lot of sense. It keeps a bit of a geographical footprint. It's extended a little bit west, obviously, with Texas, Oklahoma, but it still makes sense on what they're doing.
Yeah, I would agree. There's no Pac-12 teams in the SEC this year, so that's
my only SEC expansion gripe is I wanted West Virginia at some point.
Yeah, that
just
makes
because it feels like they're just they have that kind of SEC feel to them, and it's just right here. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be a lot of fun for sure.
They would certainly like it better than going to Lubbock, Texas.
Right. Making how many trips to Texas
Lawrence
in one calendar year?
Yeah.
All right. Another fun one. This one could be very controversial depending on who you ask. Always a fun topic. Who's your top 5 UT quarterbacks of all time? The poster is SPittVol. This is his top 5. Number 1, Peyton Manning. Number 2, Heath Schuler. Number 3, Hendon Hooker. Number 4, Casey Clausen. Number 5, T. Martin. He said he went for T over Josh Dobbs because he won a national championship.
I'm going to show my age here because I just wasn't old enough to appreciate the greatness of Heath Schuler. I'm fully aware of what he did and how he did it and how he played the position and what he meant to Tennessee. I just wasn't old enough to appreciate it. So for me, T. Martin would be higher on that list because he made the plays that he had to make the plays to lead a team to a national championship. And I mean, it's Peyton number 1, obviously, then probably for me, T, and then I don't know from there. Casey, Hendon, and probably Heath Schuler above those guys, but they're all pretty close to me.
Can you appreciate that again, I mean, obviously me either, but like he was ahead of his time. Like he was doing things decades ahead of his time, and he was great, and he was a high draft pick. And I mean, even though I didn't watch him play in real time, like Heath Schuler's way up the board. Like Heath Schuler's number 3 for me. I'm with you. Peyton 1, T. Martin because you won a natty 2. Heath is probably my 3rd. And then after that, it kind of gets difficult.
Yeah, I mean, my bias here a little bit is with Casey because
Casey's in the top 5.
I mean, I just think that, I mean, when you go and you beat Florida twice, you know, and you do the things that he did. I mean, he was such a competitor. He made everybody around him better all the time. I mean, he won on the road. You know, I don't think Casey is probably appreciated enough, much the same way I don't think that 0-1 team will ever be appreciated because of what they didn't get done in the SEC championship game that will scar them and will mar them for forever. They'll never be recognized, you know, on a Champions Weekend or anything like that. And you know that's one of the best teams I've seen play. And Casey had just an unbelievable year in that year in 0-1. So I'm a little biased on him. I did get a chance to see Heath Schuler and covered Heath Schuler, and he was so different than anything I had seen and I had covered. And you know, I didn't cover Condridge, and I remember Tony Robinson, but I mean Heath was different, and what his development under David Cutcliffe is pretty special. So I mean, I don't know that outside of Peyton, I think the pecking order can get all jumbled up there quite a bit. But you know, I'm probably more biased with Heath and Casey and T, and then you know Hooker would be a little bit further down the line probably for me on that group.
I think I've read enough about Condridge from Noah Taylor's Neyland Press Corps to where I felt like I was there watching a lot of these games, and obviously know that he was a trailblazer and what he did on the baseball field as well. I mean, Condridge would be up there for me, and then. I mean, probably Casey, because Casey was like that quarterback when I was young. He was great. I I mean, I know he was shortly after Peyton. He won a lot of games, you guys pointed out. That's probably my top 5. And I mean, Hendon deserves a lot of praise, but gosh, man, Hendon was just here for 2 years, and one of those years was fantastic. It was memorable, and it was amazing. It was 2 years. Dobbs was up there, but Tennessee didn't win a whole lot of games, you know, in the magnitude that they are now when he was here. Where does Nick Stevens come in y'all's list?
You know, the thing about Casey that's interesting is he was not very well. He was certainly not appreciated, and he was not beloved by a lot of people because he was California cool, you know, and he had the hair, and, you know, people just, I mean, he did not have he kind of didn't have that Southern feel to him or whatever, but man, you know, it wasn't pretty all the time, but he just found ways to win, and he was an unbelievable.
He also played in an era where Tennessee fans had extremely high expectations because they had won so many football games the past 5-6 years. Whereas if Casey was the quarterback in 2016, coming up trying to get out of the wilderness after 10 to 15 years of struggle, it would have been viewed completely different. But yeah, I mean, just what he did. I mean, he won at Notre Dame. He won in 5 overtimes at Alabama, diving for that pylon. The wins at Florida you're talking about. But yeah, 2001, when it ends the way it does, it changes the way everybody remembers it.
Yep, it's a great point.
Cain, what's your take on Vitello? Has he done anything this week? Must have missed it. He still seems hung up on the who leaked it that he was leaving. Was he that torn about leaving, or was it more that he wanted it to be on his own terms and that the early leak of information kind of took that away from him? Here's my thing on Tony. First of all, Major League Baseball media is getting lesson 101 in Tony Vitello. San Francisco media is getting their first taste of this. That's Tony. Tony goes into a certain media press conference or a scrum session or whatever, got something on his mind, wants to make a point. It's premeditated, and that's Tony. He did it so many times with us here. I've seen it. I've seen this. I've read this book 10 times. Having said that, dude, you're the manager of the San Francisco Giants. Stop talking. Just go do your business, man. They hired you for a reason. Go be you. You're 101, and maybe this is part of who you are, and that's fine. But if I'm a Giants fan right now, I'm like, dude, stop. Like let's move on. Like, you're our guy now. And he says our and we and all that, and obviously he's fully invested in the Giants. I do not think that a lot of people are saying, well, do you think he has regret and wants to come back and all that? I don't think this is the case whatsoever. He is really caught up on how his departure left here, and that's fair. Like, this is his – I mean, he pretty much built this program back up to what it is now. He has no wife. He has no kids. He viewed his team as his family, which is fair and all that. I mean, those were his guys, and he wanted to navigate those waters his way, and when he was 100% certain that he was gone, that he wanted to be the one that kind of, went over that barrier with his team. And it was accelerated. I mean, the report that came out wasn't wrong. 4 days later, he was named the manager of the San Francisco Giants. So the whole thing is just, I mean, it was tough on him. It obviously weighed on him. This week, I just don't think he did himself any favors whatsoever. And a lot of people around Major League Baseball think that, for right, wrong, and different, think that he's not deserving to have that job. He's not ready to have that job, whatever. He's not helping himself with what he did this week. Just go and do what you were hired to go do and be great. And I don't know, the whole thing is just, I've read that book 10 times, not helping yourself. It was weird. You guys want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting a lesson in Tony, and Tony's getting a lesson in Major League Baseball media and working in that kind of market and getting that kind of attention. Not that his teams didn't go uncovered at Tennessee, but just the size and the number of people talking about San Francisco Giants baseball is obviously different. You can't say if so-and-so hadn't happened, it would have changed the course of history, and not expect people to try to figure out what you mean by that.
And having to walk back the next day. Yeah.
Right. And in my opinion, I don't think he was saying, if that doesn't leak, maybe I'm still the coach at Tennessee. I think he's saying, if that doesn't leak, then I get to go out on my own terms, and I get to tell Josh Elander, and I get to tell Ross, and I get to tell all these people at inside the baseball and my baseball players what's happening. I think he was hurt because it leaked on a Saturday afternoon when they were on the field at Lindsey Nelson Stadium doing fall baseball. And it was like he said, everything started moving really fast after that, because once it's out there, it's out there. But I think more than anything, he was trying to send a message to somebody in San Francisco, or somebody in Major League Baseball media and say, you don't know quite what you think you know. And I don't think that's a very wise move on his part. Just move on. It's over. Everything's done with. Tennessee baseball is in a good place to start a new era, so let it be.
And again, the report that came out on Saturday was not wrong. He was named the manager of the Giants 4 days later.
They didn't say you were taking the job. It said closing in, a deal,
narrowing in, channeling in,
moving towards a deal. Yes,
and I'm with him. Like, I don't think in his mind that he knew that day specifically. Like, hey, it's 100% certainty I'm gone. But again, that's not what the report said. So I just, Tony, man.
Here's the thing he's got to understand. That Saturday, we're all in Alabama getting ready to work a football game. And, his name had been floated around for the Giants job prior to that. I mean, it's not like that's the first time he had been mentioned and linked to the Giants job. That story became very different because who wrote it and whose name was attached to that story. Okay, when Ken Rosenthal, who is Mr. Baseball from a Nationals perspective, attaches his name to a story, it changes the outlook of everything. His staff and his players had known Tony's name had been floated with the Giants. It became real because of who wrote it. That's the Adam Schefter of Major League Baseball who's writing about coaching moves. It's real. I mean, the number of people that texted me said, hey, what do you think about this? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about it. And they're like, well, Rosenthal wrote it, or he was attached to it. He contributed to it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's different. It's different if he's putting his name on it because he knows something within the framework of Major League Baseball. And that was the part that became different that day. And that's what Tony's got to understand. Like, there's no way he's controlling that narrative with those people ever. No. Ever. And he's going to have to adapt to that. He can have a working relationship with the beat person for the San Francisco Chronicle and whoever covers him every day. But those national people, man, they're going to write whatever they got. And that's what happened on that Saturday.
And you'd rather have them in your corner than in the opposite corner because
I wouldn't pick a fight with them.
Right. Well, I mean, what they used to say back in the newspaper days, you don't pick fights with people who buy ink by the barrel. Well, you don't when you're the first college baseball coach that has ever gotten a MLB manager job with no previous professional baseball coaching experience, you're already going to be a lightning rod for criticism and a very polarizing figure. And he's already a polarizing figure just based on his personality and how he does his business and how his Tennessee baseball team's played over the years and the success he had and all this stuff. Well, I would want to befriend those people before I would want to, have those people be sharpening their knives before I've ever even managed a Cactus League game.
Yeah, I mean, there's been very few outspoken critics on this. Like, there's been very few Joe Maddens on this so far.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't win games. They're all going to come out there, and so
the best thing for him could be just to get on the field and manage his baseball team and let that become the subject.
Yeah, write about games. Have the people writing about the product that they're seeing on the field.
Like they were saying, this is all great, but who's going to be the closer?
Yeah.
The optics around that all this week is just a train wreck. But I mean, hey,
not good.
Again, we know that's Tony. Tony's got to learn that this is not college baseball anymore, and this is post-game media sessions or pre-game or media sessions at that level are not therapy sessions for him like they were in Knoxville. The tangents are going to have to get managed, so to speak. He's going to have to back off some of that stuff for sure.
It is injury list updates and who's projected to start, and just keep it there.
I also love in the second day that he spoke to the media and they pretty much asked him about the first day. 30 seconds into an answer, he said, "You guys probably shouldn't take anything I say seriously."
No,
and I'm if that's not Tony Vitello.
Quote, we were talking about Lil Wayne yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has he gone off the deep end and then midway through, I don't know if I'm making sense. Probably shouldn't print that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Couple of baseball questions. Safe to say that holding runners on is more of a focus this year. Was that a Josh decision, or both Josh and pitching coach change of philosophy from under Frank? I mean, it's always been a priority. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you just ignore the runner over at first base, but those the run game management has not been good the last couple of years. Frank did it his way. You won a lot of games. You won a national championship. I think that's something that Josh Elander wants to tighten up. He's mentioned it no fewer than probably 4 or 5 times so far that we've met with him in preseason and here in the season. He's mentioned, we got to throw over to first base more. We got to hold runners accountable more on the base. Like, he's mentioned it. Clearly, it's something that he wants to change. So with Josh Reynolds, I think Josh Elander is trying to navigate that a little bit differently this year. I mean, so far we haven't really seen it challenged that much. Tennessee beat the crap out of Nichols, and UNC Asheville didn't run on Tuesday. Kent State's a pretty good ball club. Obviously, when you get to Arlington, SEC play, we'll see how different this is. But I do think that is a focus and an emphasis this year to go about it differently. Again, you didn't ignore it. Like, it wasn't a priority. You're just going to go about it differently this year. Pre-SEC schedule seems a bit more challenging. Doesn't seem to be any worthless series against teams that Farragut could beat. Do you know if that was a Josh decision or was that in the works in any way? Next 2 home series versus Kent State, played LSU okay for the most part. And Wright State took one from Georgia and Athens. Kent State's not going to be a pushover. I will say midweeks are different. We know all that. As far as the schedule goes, I mean, Tony and the schedule was formed when Tony was still the coach. It wasn't finalized. The contracts weren't signed. But I had the schedule back at the beginning of October, and nothing changed. So this schedule was already done when Tony was still here. Vol by Grace. I need some football 101 education. Can you get in the weeds a little bit about what it means by installs? We hear the word all the time, and generally I get that it means learning the system, the playbook, but what all goes into it, how much individual film time versus group film work versus actual walkthroughs at full speed reps, how much of it is concepts versus actual plays. Does each coach staff member have a specific order or process they follow? Thank you for helping me broaden my football horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of all of that. There's position group film study. There's individual film study with position coaches. There's players doing film study on their own, players doing film study with other teammates. There are certainly walkthroughs. A lot of guys, learn better visually by physically going through something and not just putting it on a board. They do some full speed reps versus air. Some of that is concept, some of that's actual play calls. So it's a little bit of all of it, and they do it at different times. They do it in the month of February, then they'll do it obviously in spring practice, and then they'll come back and do it some in the summertime as well. The question I have about all of it is how much full speed rep is there this month and in summertime compared to what the strength coach wants, and is there any kind of adjustment there in terms of what Derek Owings wants versus what maybe they've done the last couple of years. It's been probably more practice than anything else. So to answer his question, and I'm not trying to avoid it, it is literally a little bit of all of those things when you get down to it, that they're involved in all those things, and particularly the month of February heading into spring ball, and then again in the summertime.
I think it differs on where you are, who's your coach, all that stuff. I mean, when I played forever ago, like, I remember it was the same install. It was a PowerPoint essentially, and it was like 50 slides, and you ran through it, and you ran through that same program like 5 or 6 times throughout the year. But then you go off that program, you go to the whiteboard, got on the screen, go to the whiteboard, draw things up. Here's an example of that. Here's the film, the cut ups. I mean, it was like slideshow, whiteboard, film breakdown for what you're looking at right now, and then you move on to the next thing. And so it's just a little bit of everything, and it depends on who's your coach and where you are.
Yeah, I mean, last Monday I was in the complex for something, and I looked out there as I was walking through, and Glenn Ettleby had his entire offensive line out on the practice field, and they were just repping install. They were just repping it physically and not just putting it on the board.
Yeah.
So again, how does your group learn? What is the best way for them to learn? What's the best process for them to learn? You probably give them all a little bit of all of it. David Sanders talked this past year about he got in extra walkthrough work on Sundays in the spring, in particular, one-on-one, to help him further learn things and speed up his acceleration and his learning curve with the install. So everybody learns different, and you're trying to throw it at them in a million different ways to make sure you hit everybody's best capabilities of learning and the best way for them to comprehend things. I mean, when Monty Kiffin was here for that 1 year, he voiced over all of the film stuff because coaches couldn't be that hands-on. So they would come get a DVD and go watch the DVD, and it was Monty Kiffin's voice teaching it on the blackboard. And that was the first way he did it, because back then the strength coach had them all summer. The coaches couldn't be that hands-on and that involved. So it's different, and it's become different in football, much the way it became different in basketball a few years ago, where basically basketball now practices from June until April, the end of basketball season, essentially. So football is getting a lot more hands-on like that than they used to be able to be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The rule changes. You can do so much more. Again, they used to literally script everything for us, and we'd go out there and they'd all go sit in the offices and look down and watch us, but they couldn't be out there. And like you would have a simulated football for like to simulate snapping the football, but it was like a tape ball or something because you couldn't have a football out there. It's changed so much to where you can go out there and you can do what Glenn Ellery was doing. So I think that helps tremendously. A couple more here. Let's run through these, not rapid fire, but quickly. Grant, $1 million question here. Couple $1 million question here. Or do we know that? We can't define market value. Should JUCO count towards eligibility?
Should it count towards NCAA eligibility when it's not an NCAA sanctioned thing? I don't think so. I mean, I think your NCAA clock should start when you start playing NCAA football. I don't know. That could mean you could, spend 6 years not playing and then try to come back when you're 27 or whatever. And if you want to do that, then good luck. But it doesn't make sense to me that JUCO counts towards NCAA eligibility when JUCO is not NCAA football. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it.
I go back and forth on this deal. I mean, I'm the same way with European players in basketball. You play 3 years of pro ball over there, but you haven't started your clock. So you come here and you play. Should you be allowed to do that? Should it be so many years past high school graduation? Well, what if you go on a mission and you're gone for 2 years and you're starting back 2 years later? The NCAA doesn't sanction JUCO. So I totally get that argument. But do we need to have 28-year-olds playing college football, 27-year-olds playing college football? I don't know. Why not? I mean, was Kelly Washington playing football the worst thing ever for sports? He just went from one sport to the other. I mean, so, I mean, and this is where the NCAA has this problem. There's never been a blanket rule.
Right.
And then you're challenging the rules. And I totally get Joey's argument. And if he wins, I totally understand why he wins. The NCAA's argument is, well, we've never done it that way. It's always been that it counted. Well, why? Why has it always been that way? Who decided that? So I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of guys getting 7-8 years of eligibility. Like the guy in Minnesota that's got his 9th year of eligibility, man. I mean, I don't think that should happen. But do I think it's the most wrong thing in the world if Joey Aguilar gets another year or Pavia got a year last year? No, I don't think that was a bad thing. I think the baseball kid should have got another year. So I guess the answer to the question is no, it shouldn't count towards eligibility. The longer I sit there and argue with myself.
The whole thing about Alberto Ozuna that made no sense to me is he could play Division II, which is NCAA sanctioned. Couldn't play Division I.
Again, and that's where the NCAA just there's just no credibility there because it's all over the map. Mm-hmm. It's all over the map on what it is, on what it should be.
Yeah. And there's been some pretty good old football players. Chris Winkie was an old football player. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Washington. Brandon Whedon was an old football player. Oh, okay. With a few of the top in-state kids already committed elsewhere and Vandy possibly trending with a couple more, how's Tennessee looking for this in-state group?
I mean, I think they're okay. I mean, you got Malik Howard at Oak Ridge. You got the kid at Halls, Jarrell Chandler. I think Tennessee's in pretty solid shape with both those guys. I think they're in decent shape with the Martin Westview kids that Tennessee's involved with there, which is Asa Barnes and Miles Brown. They're in it for Jaden Bryant, who's the safety from West Tennessee. Kenny Simon, they're obviously in it for. Keyshawn Bowman's going to be all over the map till the finish line. They'll be in it, but he's going to take a bunch of visits and, we'll see. Tennessee continues to have some conversations with Amari Sanders. So, I don't think that they're in bad shape or it's off the rails in state. The difference in state is everybody's got money. Everybody's got money. How do you want to spend your money? If you're Vanderbilt and you're going to go high school kids, maybe they're willing to spend more money on in-state kids than maybe where Tennessee is compared to some other, prospects around the country. So, it levels it out a little bit because everybody's dealing with money through the rev share world.
Yeah. Already got Princeton UAFO, JP Peace. I don't know if you mentioned this. Sorry if you did, but obviously some local guys, Malik Howard and Jarrell Chandler, they're very much involved there as well. Oak Ridge and Halls, respectively. What do you think the basketball team can level up for the last part of the season, Grant?
Taking care of the basketball. Turnovers can still be an issue at times. Better to close games, better taking care of leads, better free throw shooting across the board. Nate, the men has gotten a lot better at the line. JP Estrella has gotten a lot better at the line, but they could still use more consistency there. They could still use more consistency from your big guys, from Felix, from Jalen Carey, those kind of guys. There's a lot of different ways where this team can level up because I think they can be pretty good, but they're going to have to clean some stuff up first. Start in those areas.
Gotcha. All right, let's go rapid fire these last couple. Let's assume Joey wins. Will G Mac and Faizon be willing to wait their turn and play here at Tennessee? If Joey wins, is Faizon really willing to wait this year and maybe up to 2 more to play? Would Joey winning be bad for the team long term? Good thing about that, Brent, is there's no spring window for those guys to leave, so you're safe this year.
Well, here's the thing. You don't worry about long term in this day and age of college football.
Yeah.
It's about the now. Same thing in basketball. I mean, your roster turnover is your roster turnover. You're not going to keep everybody. The days of projecting 2 or 3 years down the road are kind of a wasted venture at this point. You're trying to figure out the best team you can put on the field for that particular season, because what that makeup of that team the next year looks like could be drastically different. So you're playing for the now more than you've ever played.
2027, Dayon Cooper from South Pitt just picked up an offer. Do you know if the Vols like him on offense or defense? Brent, I don't know if you can answer that. I just know that he's a fast riser. He's got really, really good ball skills, dynamic player, one of the better ones, again, fast rising in the state. Do you know if Tennessee has a preference, offense or defense?
I don't know if there's a preference. I think athletes probably to be determined. It's probably his offensive tape is better than his defensive tape, or is more eye-catching at this point. So I would probably say maybe a little more offense, but I think it's to be determined as they continue to see him grow and develop.
Grimmer and Wright, Blake Grimmer, Garrett Wright, coming up with them coming in, guys like Myatt, Grenlinger, and Bates pushing over under 4.5 the number of non-pitchers who start the first game of the postseason, the same position they played on the opening day. All right, so essentially he's asking, I pulled up the starting lineup for Nichols, and I'm trying to see if more than 5 of these guys will be starting in the same position the first game in postseason play. I think it's over. Henry Ford, I think, is your third baseman. That's one. I'll skip Blaine Brown because I don't know if he'll be in left field or not. Levi Clark, I think, is your first baseman. Reese Chapman, I think, is your right fielder. Stone Lawless, I think, is your catcher. If healthy, I think Manny Marin's your shortstop, so right there's the over. That's 5. Jay Abernathy, I think, is your center fielder. I don't know about second base. I don't know about left field, and I don't know where Blaine Brown is. Blaine Brown's either in left field or DH, so right there, that's 6. So I would take the over from opening day to what I think would be the game 1 of postseason play for Tennessee. Which of these 2-year players are draft eligible? Chris Newstrom, yes, draft eligible. Levi Clark, no. Blaine Brown, no. Jay Abernathy, no. Manny Marin, yes. Landon Mack, no. Tegan Coons, yes. Braden Krenzel, no. Nick Abraham, no. So of the list here of these sophomores, Chris Newstrom, Manny Marin, Tegan Coons are all draft-eligible sophomores, meaning this could be their last year here at Tennessee. Last question. Let's throw it to Brent Hubbs. There seems to be significant issues with the Lady Vols basketball program. They don't play hard. They look poorly coached. They have no leadership. The head coach doesn't look like she's ready for this type of job. It looks like pickup basketball with zero structure. What does Danny White do about it? They likely don't finish the season well based on their schedule. Does there need to be major changes in that program?
Well, I mean, I think Kim Caldwell's learning the CEO part of the job. She's obviously got to tweak some things with her program. That she's going to have to tweak some things schematically, I think. They've got, I mean, they're going to have to overhaul the roster again. They lose a good bit. You never know what the portal looks like in terms of players staying or not staying. The bottom line for them is they're going to have to play better defense. And I know there's a lot of talk about offense, and I get all the talk about the offense. And I posted this on the board the night of the Ole Miss game. You know, they must lead the country in no pass possessions, where they just dribble it down and go to the rim, or maybe there's one pass. They don't reverse the basketball. I get all the offensive frustrations. I totally get all of those things. But when you look at them against good opponents, with the exception of Kentucky and Georgia, which they held below 60 points, or Kentucky and Alabama, which they held below 60 points, everybody else is scoring 80 plus. I think 6 of the ranked opponents they played, or 5 of the ranked opponents they played, have scored 90 plus. Grant, I don't care what level you're at. I don't care what gender you're at. You got to be able to sit down and guard. Your offense is going to go. It's going to come and go throughout the course of the games. You've got to be able to guard and play defense. This program on the court has to make a seismic shift defensively based on what we've seen thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rick Barnes basketball has driven a lot of people crazy because of how much the emphasis is on defense. But when that defense isn't there, you realize how much you missed it and how frustrating it is to try to win basketball games without it. I think, without trying to be too prisoner of the moment, the best thing Kim Caldwell has going for her is that Danny White hired her. Like, the athletic director on the job is the person who hired you, so he's not going to just turn around and fire you. Year 2, I would imagine not, because that's his hire, and he doesn't want to admit that it was the wrong hire. So she does have a lot to. I don't know what major changes, what are defined as major changes, but she needs to make some changes, because clearly what's going on in year 2 is not something that needs to be, happening in year 3. Like they've got to, look in the mirror and figure out what's gone wrong this season and figure out ways to fix it, because it can't continue at this pace, because then at some point it's not going to matter who the AD is. If you're not getting the job done, you're not getting the job done.
All right, that's going to do it here for today's edition of the Volquest Mailbag Podcast. Thanks so much for sending in your questions on the General's Quarters each and every single week. We got loads and loads of content going on right now with men's basketball, Lady Vols basketball, spring practice starting in a couple of weeks. The defensive assistants are going to meet with the media on tomorrow, so you'll get to hear from Jim Knowles and his defensive staff for the first time, so that's exciting. Baseball happening this weekend. Baseball will be in Arlington next weekend. Loads going on over at Volquest.com and on the General's Quarters as we cover and discuss it all right there. Come link up with us. If you're listening to us and watching us right now and not a member of the site, we do thank you. But there's so much more that you could be getting by joining us over at Volquest.com, so come on over today. For Brent Hubbs, Grant Ramey, I'm Eric Cain. Thanks so much for joining us here again on the Thursday morning Mailbag Podcast.